Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we are chatting with Alice Stevens. She is a co-founder of Sunset Paranormal, and we get into talking about investigating and her experiences in the paranormal, as well as some of the haunted objects and her thoughts on that subject. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey Alice, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for joining us and coming on the show to talk about your group, Sunset Paranormal, and what y'all do and how y'all investigate and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually excited. Been kind of looking forward to talking to you guys. So
yeah, I love having individual teams on, and because it gives people insight of how we actually investigate and how it's different from TV and what they see, and the real world of investigating, and so I love talking to everybody because I'm just a people person and I want to pick everybody's brain about the paranormal. Because I've been doing this for over 20 years, but I'm not, dead set in my opinions necessarily, because I found that, none of us know everything about the paranormal. So when I get other people's perspectives, it kind of makes me think, about theories and things, and develop different opinions, different theories, and makes me think of how to investigate differently and in a better way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, I think everybody has their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
But I think that, too, I think that the general public is kind of, how do I word this? They've been kind of disillusioned, from the television shows and the things. So,
right.
But I mean, I enjoy it. I've been doing this for a while, and it's just something that, I've always really, really liked to do. And I've had a lot of weird experiences along the way, but yeah, it's a fun thing. And I think that, when people actually really learn how to investigate and get out there, it's really mainly just kind of, testing the waters, just go and do it. You know what I mean? Right.
And y'all are based out of Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I live outside of Nashville, so we're in the same area. So, yeah, I was born and raised here in Middle Tennessee. But yeah, so having a group, how did you get started in the paranormal? What got your interest? You said you've had experiences throughout your life. What got you interested in the paranormal to start Sunset Paranormal and get into actually investigating?
So when I was a kid, we had some experiences in my home. I don't want to say too much, but, there was some stuff happening due to somebody kind of dabbling in stuff that they shouldn't have been dabbling into.
Yeah.
And, it always got me kind of curious, since I was a kid. I mean, I had my sister was one of my sisters, but, well, basically what happened was her and her friends were messing with some stuff that they shouldn't have been messing with. And she got to the point where she started seeing, full body apparitions of things that we weren't seeing, shadow figures, things like that. And she would have me sleep on the floor, in the room with her because she was scared to sleep by herself.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're messing with stuff and you're playing with Ouija boards and you're playing with, which I don't know if she was playing with Ouija boards, but, when you're playing with stuff like that, and you're opening up doors and things to things that you don't know,
Right.
And of course, you're a kid, you're really susceptible to seeing things a lot more vivid and clear than you are when you're an adult. I think it's because, we as adults, we're always taught to like, oh, it's not real.
Right.
So we kind of suppress that, which, I think everybody has some type of psychic abilities, to an extent. But that all that stuff happened in Delaware. When we moved to Tennessee, some other things happened. And, we had to call people in to come and pray, and things like that. So there was a lot of stuff going on in our home. And I've always been curious about it. So we've had experiences, we've had things. And then, my mom knew I was always curious about it. She was always kind of worried about it, and like, she said, well, I want, getting in, the stuff that your sister got into and things like that. And I'm like, well, I'm not into that kind of stuff, And it was just different because, I've always liked ghost stories. I've always, my favorite TV show was Scooby-Doo when I was a kid, like,
right.
Little stuff. Right, yeah. I mean, I was always like the odd one. And I got kind of into it when I was about 15. I think it was like, I was always watching the Travel Channel, the ghost stories. This is before Ghost Hunters came out. So it was like, all we had was like the reenactment ghost stories on Travel Channel, right?
Right. Yeah. And unsolved mysteries, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I was watching all that stuff, I remember my mom was like, Alice, you need to come in here. There's a show on TV and you're going to love it. And I was like, oh gosh, what is it? So I walked in there and then, Ghost Hunters was on television. I was like, oh, you can do that? I didn't even know you could do something like that,
Right.
Because they don't talk about stuff like that. It's been going on, spiritualism has been happening since the 1800s, with the whole seances and the table tipping and, the Fox sisters and all things like that.
Yeah.
But they don't talk, people don't talk about it. A lot of it was, we grew up in a Christian household. There was a lot of stuff that my mom did not want us getting into. But, she was like, well, I guess, since they're teaching the science behind it and things like that. I think that's why I was really, really into it because, Ghost Hunters kind of showed a side of like, this stuff is not to be feared.
Right.
So we need to say like, oh, ghosts are friends. They're not scary, which is true. Sometimes you get a, kind of a mean-spirited ghost, but you don't have a lot of that. There's not a lot of that. And I think the television kind of shows it a lot worse, than what we actually are experiencing, out in the field. Most of the time it's just sitting around talking to thin air,
Right. Yeah, that's what I always tell everybody. I try to set that expectation when we do public ghost hunts of like, it's kind of like fishing. Sometimes you catch something, sometimes you don't. And I found myself on nights where you haven't had a lot of activity at a place because, you can't do it on demand. Like you're saying, sometimes we're just sitting in the dark talking and nothing. And I've apologized to like whatever, I've got a group of 10 or 15 people with me that I'm leading and I've apologized to them and said, sorry, we really haven't had anything happen. And they always seem to be fine with it. They're always like, no, we had a good time. And I have one lady that told me not so long ago, she's like, but what's great about it is you set that expectation to begin with and let us know that this is not like TV, And she said, so we all came into this knowing we might not catch anything. And I was like, well, that's awesome to get that feedback, and people are actually listening while I'm up there trying to educate too, But you said, it's we don't always catch something, but also I bet you're probably into the history like most of us are too.
Yes, I am. I love I like the history, I think, a little bit more than actually ghost hunting itself. I like to know the backstory of why is there spirits there? What happened to, the location that can make, the spirit want to stick around with, it's one of those weird things for me that, which I enjoy all of it. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I think I like the thrill of finding things out that other people may have not even thought about,
right.
Finding out like, oh, there's a guy named Henry here and he was here in the, he lived here in the 1830s and, he passed away from, pneumonia or something, that's just stuff like, little things like that. I enjoy that part, but, the actual investigating part of it when it comes to the history. Now taking down data and stuff, writing things down. And sometimes that can be kind of annoying after you've done it for so long, but I do, I enjoy it. All of it really. It can be, sometimes it can be frustrating, because sometimes you have clients and things that they want specific, you to do specific things or act like the television people and things.
Right.
Like, it's not like that. You can't do that. It's like, I don't know what you're looking for, you're trying to figure out like what they're actually wanting. And it's like, I can only give you, what we have and what the facts are. You get some things like that, though.
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying. I've had a few, more than a few, private investigations. I don't do so many private investigations anymore, but I've kind of switched the focus to more charity stuff. But we had one private case where we went and investigated, and then the lady did not want to talk to us because we weren't going to tell her that it was demonic. And she had been consulting the Psychic Friends Network, and some some lady in California that was her mom's friend that was a psychic told her it was demonic. And because we weren't going to tell her that, she didn't even want to meet with us for us to go over evidence with her what we did catch, and so it's ridiculous when they want you they expect you to be like TV when it's not, they're kind of let down. that also makes me suspicious of people too. You know, are they really telling us the truth? You know,
right? Well, and that's the thing too. I've noticed that there's a lot of people out there. He'll tell them over and over again, but like, hey, this is what this is, and they continue to push that situation. Well, a lot of times, what I've learned, doing this, when somebody is like, especially clients and things like that, when they're saying, oh, I want it to be this, like, I'm going to show you this, and it has to be this way, and I'm like, I'm not going to fake evidence for you, so you're going to have to, you're going to have to just accept that, this is a piece of dust, or this is reflection, or this is, maybe your own shadow that you cast by walking down the hallway or something. You know what I mean? Things like that. So there's a lot of things that I think that the problem with the television that it has grown to the point where people are fantasizing about being on television.
Yeah.
So they call in, investigators, and they want, investigations done. And then they want to say, oh, I want to become famous, so I'm going to try to get this investigator to come in and say that I've got a demonic, activity going on, and I've got things happening, and maybe, Taps will come out, or Zach Baggins, and we'll be on television.
Right. Right.
But it doesn't even work like that. And that's the thing too. I mean, you'd have to be really working with a team for probably a long time and actually have real paranormal activity going on that other teams can't even figure out before that would even happen.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird stuff like that. But we've had some really good cases though. I mean, there's been times that, we go in and I'm like, wow, you really do got shadow people. I mean, I'm talking about like, we'll catch things that are, which I can talk about this case, because this case is, we didn't have to sign a non-disclosure or anything, but, we investigated a haunted tattoo parlor, and one of the witnesses, were saying, hey, we keep, every time we're on the phone or something, and we have it, on FaceTime or something, this spirit wants to show up behind the camera. And I'm like, okay, and so I was in the basement, and they have their basement set up like a haunted house. So it's kind of cool to walk through a haunted house, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were in this one area, and we were standing next to this. It was kind of like it was an air hockey table or something that was down there. And I was like, I want to see something. And I was talking to my buddy Josh, and I was like, hey, I want to see if there's something will actually show up on camera. So we talked for about 5 minutes trying to get the thing to show up. Well, sure enough, we didn't see anything there. And then when we go back through, the tapes and everything, it's completely there. Like, you could see the shadow like type figure peeking around beside Josh's arm, like his shoulder, and then you hear a laugh.
Oh wow.
Which is kind of funny. Yeah. So and I think that's another thing with investigating and stuff, is that I try to explain to people, they're like, well, what's evidence? What is actual evidence? I said, well, really, I mean, so you can, pick stuff up. It's not, not with a witness testimony. I was like, but it's better if you have something that correlates with the witness testimony, because then you know for a fact that this stuff is actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also validates for your client that they're not crazy.
Exactly. And I think that, just kind of like, going over evidence and different things, that there's a lot of, I guess, different ways, I try to tell people, it's like, how do you know a place is haunted? I'm like, well, if it's happened more than one time, it's in a known haunted place, like other people have said it's haunted, it's other people have experienced it. There's multiple witnesses. There's multiple things happening. It's not just one thing that happened and then it just stopped, right? Because we all have odd experiences from time to time. That doesn't mean your house is haunted. You know what I mean? It could be a spirit just kind of going through, walking through, and then leaving. Doesn't mean it's haunted, because a haunted is more along the lines of the spirit. It's kind of like how they say the term, it's your favorite haunt, right? So somebody like frequents a bar after work every day at 5 p.m. and then when he passes, he continues to stay at that bar,
right?
Because that was a place he liked to hang out. So that's really what a haunting is. I think a lot of people are kind of confused on the different terminology and the things of what ghosts are, what an apparition is, things like that. So I think it's kind of neat that, we have an actual science to be able to teach us those things, which I really, really like. A lot of people need to be a little bit more educated, just, on the field itself. And I say, when they do go to do ghost hunting, I'm not saying everybody has to go to school and things like that. But it'd probably be better if they at least learn, the basics of why we're investigating. I think
Right.
that it's because we're there to help people. We're not there to become famous. We're not there to, be on TV. We're not, and even with the clients, I think we have to be very, very careful with what clients that we take, because then you're saying, okay, wait, if the client is causing fraud, they're purposely setting things up, trying to trick you and things like that, which does happen,
Yeah.
Just because I'm not saying that, every client is like that, obviously not, there are really people out there who really need help and, they're struggling, but I think that we need to focus on helping people learn about the paranormal field. And I think that that's a really big thing. I'm seeing in the, you see all the stuff on Facebook and you see all the stuff online and all they talk about is demons and,
Right.
and things at
Right.
locations. And you're like, oh my gosh, which is super rare. That's demonic activity is not going to be in every location. So
Yeah. And definitely, I'm definitely on board with what you're talking about as people getting educated, and that's what we try to do through doing the public ghost hunts is allow people to come out. And I know other people that do them too. I'm not just saying anybody's got to come to our specific ones, but there are other great people out there doing public ghost hunts too, with the emphasis on educating, that this is not TV. This is, and we try to, if you come to one of our events, you are an investigator. Like, we're just there to lead you. And I know there's some groups that they do public ghost hunts and they tell people sit down, shut up, and just watch us investigate. And I think that's ridiculous. But I think it's good for people to come out to different public events and learn, like you're saying, or even have teams that do classes to say, this is what the equipment's for. This is how we use it. This is how, the basics of investigation, so that people kind of get that basics before they go out to even do a public ghost hunt. So they have an understanding of, what's going on, what the real world is like.
Yeah. And that's, that's one of the things that, I plan on doing is, teaching classes. It only just because, there are plenty of classes out there, but, are they getting actual, the science behind it? Are they really learning what they need to know when it comes to, why we're investigating, how to properly investigate, as well as, people, I've seen a lot of people, come in and they want to investigate and they're wanting to use all this equipment. They don't know how to use the equipment. They're clueless on why we're even using equipment in the first place.
Right.
And so, why are we reading EMF? Why is all this happening? And I think there's a lot of that's a big misunderstanding, and it's not just for, the spirits to play with blinky lights and just communicate. I mean, obviously communication is a big part of it, but there's other reasons behind why we're using the equipment, and,
right.
And so I just think that, educating people, and that's the thing too. I think that it's so much misunderstanding. I think a lot of it, and because everybody's like, oh, I love vision shows and I just want to go out there and do it. And it's great. I think that's wonderful, because when you first start, you're not going to know what you're doing, and then you get into it, and then you say, oh wait, there's a correlation between this and this. This is happening, and you start kind of understanding more that there's a science, and it's not just about just talking to ghosts,
Right.
So, which I really, really enjoy. I think it's an amazing field. It really is. And I think that whoever really started as a science and started, really trying to understand, the other side. I mean, I give them kudos, because, it's been around for forever, but, I think it's just, we don't have to be afraid of it. And we just need to learn, when we learn the proper ways to do things too, we can tremendously help the clients as well. And even, help us, because that makes you feel good that you're doing something right and you're helping other people. And I really like that. So.
Yeah. And like you keep saying, it's not something to be afraid of. I'm guessing you probably get that from a lot of people as well. Is that the first thing they say to me is, oh, I don't know if I could go to a ghost hunt. That would just be scary. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
And I think that, it can be a little, sometimes depending on where you're at, right? Obviously, your first ghost hunt, you're not going to want to go to like Brushy Mountain, or like, you're not going to want to go to like somewhere that has a malevolent spirit that attacks people.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't want to, go to your local cemetery, put a couple cat balls down on the tombstones and just have a conversation and see if anything happens. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, but if you want to have an experience, a real experience, I would say to go, go do those ghost hunts, go do those events. You're going to have an experience most of the time. And I understood there's if you want to have an experience, you're probably going to have one. If you don't want to have it, you're probably, not going to have it. But even if you did have one, sometimes if you're that skeptical, you'll say, hey, that probably wasn't something else. But let me try to figure out what it is. But I always try to tell people to, always look for the normal before we think everything is paranormal.
Right.
Because when we're looking for the normal, we're saying, okay, maybe that is bad wiring behind the walls. Maybe that is, I don't know, water or something you're hearing certain things that it's just the wind or, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I think that kind of helping eliminate those other things to say, hey, maybe my house is not haunted. Maybe there is something else going on, but I'm not crazy because I was experiencing something, but it
right.
wasn't, that doesn't mean it was paranormal. So, but, with the events and things, I think that those are really good for people who want to have experience because we already know that those places are actually haunted. They've been investigated several times. So,
right. Yeah. Most of the places we do the public investigations at, they're tried and true proven places. Like Thomas House, we do a lot of events up there, and Two Rivers Mansion we've managed to get into, and Old Stone Jail in Franklin, Kentucky. Yeah, all those places, they never disappoint. And I think there are also places where the Rosemont and Gallatin's another one we've done a lot of events. I think those are places also where the spirits enjoy people coming in. And so I don't, people, I've been asked if we feel like we're exploiting them by doing this. And I tell them no, because we come in with respect and they have a choice. We're not coming in provoking, and we're not coming in and thinking, they're circus animals to perform. We ask them to speak to us, and we come in with respect and say, we just want to understand your story, and we just want to connect with you and let these people have an experience. And I think a lot of them, especially like you said, if they are, if it is their favorite haunt, if it was their favorite, they love their house they lived in, this beautiful historic house, and they're proud of it. I think they don't have any problems coming back and letting people, see that and interacting with the people, because the people are wowed by their home, this beautiful home that you're in. And so, and I don't think most of them are stuck either. I think they make a choice to come back and do those things.
I think so too. I think, I have those different theories, I think, out there with everybody. But I do think that there's, some theories, most religions, they have a belief in like, purgatory, some type of like afterlife area where we're waiting for judgment or something. But,
Yeah.
That could be something, but also too, it's like most of the spirits that I have encountered, they don't really talk about that. They're just there.
Yeah.
So it makes you just wonder if it's just another, just another side. It's like, but then, you have, and this is where too, it's like, I've really been kind of studying into this a lot more of how that there's some places where you go in and everybody says, oh, it's haunted. But you go in and say, okay, well, you didn't find anything when you were by yourself, because you could went in and you're skeptical. But then you have places that when you go back in there with a bunch of other people, let's say, then you start experiencing things. So it's like, is that belief in, I don't know what they call it. It's basically like a collective belief where everybody is believing in the same thing, and it kind of creates a haunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of makes you wonder, it's like all these people coming in with all of their energy and all these different haunted locations, like, is it just fueling whatever is there and it creates more hauntings? Is it giving them that energy to be able to manifest easier, So, I mean, I guess there's different theories on things, but I would love, I think obviously we're never going to know until we get to the other side, like what it really is. But, I think I just find it very, very interesting. It's everything about it, but the science behind it, that they found out, that EMF correlates with, like hauntings and things. And I think I think that's really interesting that they started using that, because they realized in residual hauntings that the EMF is higher in a place where it has a residual haunting, in a specific room, and things like that. And there's a lot of people who use compasses and things still instead of EMF meters. So, but I just find it very, very interesting that we have, just different beliefs and different things. Because, people put in their, kind of their belief systems too. We have like, who have spiritual beliefs and they believe that, the crystals and stuff will protect them. And then you have people who are religious, Christians, when they have their crosses and their holy water. And so we have all this different mixes of culture just surrounding in ghost hunting, which I absolutely love. But I just think it's neat because it kind of brings us all together in this one big community. So I just like it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I kind of preach about on the show here is the diversity and having diversity in the paranormal, and that even talking about women being marginalized in the paranormal. And I love seeing women-led teams like yours. I know it's you and your husband are the co-founders, but you're one of the leaders of the team. And then you have these all-women paranormal teams, and there's kind of been this resurgence of women paranormal authors. And I wish that we could translate that to TV instead of the bro culture that's on TV. There's very few women on these popular TV shows where it's represented, and even other. For me, I'm gay, and so there's no representation of that. And not saying that we have to shove anything down anybody's throat, but I just think it's going to take all of us and looking through like you're saying, looking through the lenses of what we believe and our experiences in life. It's going to take a diverse group of people to figure this out, or at least try to figure it out.
Right, exactly. I remember, because of, I'm a Christian, by nature here. So, but, my religious beliefs and things, they're like, oh, well, don't work with mediums, and then you work with a medium and you're like, wow, this person can really figure out what's going on, and this place can kind of fill in the blanks, So I think that kind of, we have to set those things aside and really just focus on the, working together as people and caring about each other as people, and just focusing on the hunt. I think it's an amazing. I love the community. I love the people. I mean, you could get your some, who'll come in and kind of start stuff, and so obviously there's a lot of competition. Everybody thinks they're going to be the next big TV star, and I'm like, if that ever happens, give me a call, because I mean, I mean, there's people, like you said, you've been doing it for what, 20 years, you said?
Yeah, for over 20 years.
So, so it's like, and it's like, you have to, people are going to do it, a lot of people are like, I'm going to be famous, but I'm like, it's few and far between that actually happens to some people, and people who are doing it for a long periods of time, and you can kind of tell the ones who are doing it for the fame and the ones who are actually doing it,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, I just think it's kind of neat that we have people who really do love the field and really do love people. And, I always, it's funny because, you have like people who are like in kind of like religious sects, and, they all hang out together and they have like their little communities and things. And then they kind of look down upon us, and because we're hanging out in abandoned buildings talking to thin air,
Right.
But it's like, I feel like we're kind of like the underdogs who formed our own little community that, we all can love each other and support one another and be there for each other.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And then also the fact that we get to go in these amazing places, and a lot of times have them to ourselves, to where other people don't get to experience that,
Yeah. And there's been, some places that I'm like, wow, you want us to come in and you want us to investigate where,
Yeah.
Yeah. And some places, it's like you've been wanting to investigate that building, but then they're like, okay, I got a non-disclosure, so I can't really tell anybody about it. The only person I can talk to about it is the team,
Right, right.
But you've been wanting to investigate that house since you were a kid,
Yeah.
You thought you knew it was haunted, but it's things like that I think it's kind of fun, because it's like sometimes you get those chances to do that, and then other times you get like chances to investigate like really big buildings, and you're like, how am I even going to cover this?
Yeah.
It's like you're just starting from like okay, like you walk through the door, you see how big this place is. Like in Brushy Mountain, like you're gonna have to be there for like weeks if you really truly investigate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Brushy Mountain because I'm going there for the first time this Saturday. So,
oh wow, really?
Yeah, so I'm trying to wrap my head around how to investigate there and to cover as much as possible. You know?
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys have a DVR kit or?
Well, I'm not going to take all that. We're going to have some cameras that we carry around and things, and probably just film in different areas that we're in. You know, yeah, not doing the whole DVR thing. That's so much footage to go through, and
I know it's hard because you got to set up a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially being the first time that I'm going to be there, I'd rather not worry about that stuff as much and just kind of enjoy the location and have the experiences. You know.
Yeah, and I actually have an acquaintance, I would say. They have actually went to Brushy, and they were, let's put it this way, like, it was my mom's ex-boyfriend's brother, put it that way. And he was in Brushy Mountain, and when he got out of there, I remember him telling me, because I was talking to him about Brushy Mountain, I was like, well, I'd love to go investigate there, and this, that, and the other. And this was way back in the day. This was like, I think they closed it down, 2009 or something. I can't remember the date.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said when he got out of there, he said he's never so happy to get out of a place like that before in his life. You know, he was telling me about all the stuff. He's like, he would lay there at night and he could hear like scratching on the walls and like hear things that weren't supposed to be there, see things that weren't supposed to be there, you know. He said that the violence in that place was just horrible.
Yeah.
And then one of my sister's friends knew somebody, and I talked to him about it, and he was actually there before they shut it down. And he started, when I was talking to him, he was shaking, talking to me about it. So, you know that there's a lot of, and there's so much violence, and there's so much death, and there's so much things that are happening there. I mean, because you got to think that the violence and things are also caused by the guards. It wasn't just, you know, the people who were in the prison, you know, the prisoners. It was also the guards that were attacking the prisoners and hurting each other and things. It was a very, very violent place. I mean, obviously, I think places like that have to have some type of darker energy, you know, for things like that to happen continuously, especially. I mean, when you have people who are, you know, drug addicts, you know, violent people, you know, people who are really kind of struggling in life, you know, and you get all that suicides and all of the things that happen in places like that, you know, there has to be some type of dark energy.
Yeah.
You know, and you watch the television shows and they say, oh, there's something that, you know, crawls on the ceiling and stuff. And you're like, is that true? Or, you know, and that's where I was like, I really wish that we could actually really truly investigate a place like that and actually be somewhere, but they charge an arm and a leg to kind of go to these places.
Yeah.
You know, but it's one of those things that's like, I would love to really find out, like, is what the television actually, what they're portraying it to be, is that really what it's like? You know, I mean, obviously there's got to be something.
Yeah, actually have it for an extended period of time to really dive deep into what's going on. Yeah. Like I said, this weekend I just want to go. You know, I definitely will want to go back at some point in time, but this weekend I just want to go kind of experience it and see what we can catch and what kind of personal experiences that we can have. And
I was just wondering if you guys were doing it overnight.
Yeah, we're doing overnight. So there'll be
awesome.
10 of us, I think. And me and my best friend are the only two investigators. So the rest of them there are they just like to go, you know, to places. And so we got invited to come. And as far as I know, we'll be the only two investigators there. So that should be interesting too. The rest of them don't, you know, they don't have.
Everybody's going to be running around with a flashlight freaking out.
Yeah. So me and him might have to be like, we'll see y'all later. We're going over here, you know, y'all can do y'all's thing. We're going to do ours. But hopefully we can also teach them some things too, you know. And teach them, hey, this is how we actually investigate. And let's see what we can catch, you know, hard evidence on film or EVP or whatever, you know, what kind of interactions can we have through the EDI or, you know, the various pieces of equipment. But it should be a fun night.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I think that too. Like when you get new people come in and do stuff like that. I think it sometimes can be more fun because they can bring that excitement that you kind of lost over the years.
Yeah,
From
yeah,
investigating. You know, because it's like
yeah.
you do it. You're doing it all the time, and you're like, okay, it's just another day. But then you
Right.
have the new people come in, and it's just like they're full of excitement. Like I've never done this before. I'm just so excited about it.
Yeah, and that usually that's why I like doing the public ghost hunts because I always get fired up. That just helps me, fire me up for the investigation. Even though I'm like, oh, I've been to Thomas House like 10 weekends, over the past like 4 or 5 years, and so I'll go back there, and I love the place. It's like home away from home because I've been there so many times, and I slept there, whatever. I'm familiar with the spirits; they're familiar with me, but it's fun. You do all the
Yeah,
hard work of setting everything up. You get ready for everybody to come in, and then they come in, and then it's like, oh, we have a bunch of fresh people, that's never done this. And so it's just fun educating and seeing them have their first experiences and things. But like, yeah, you're saying, it just kind of infuses you with this renewed energy and passion for what we do.
yeah, it does. And another thing too is like I worked at Chattanooga Ghost Tours for a while, and so I kind of know the event kind of type thing, and just doing ghost tours and kind of doing all that stuff. And
Yeah.
you'll get that one person who's just always there and I'm like scared to death to be there, and it's always that one person that the ghosts pick on the most.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of that, like it's not funny, but it is kind of because it's like I'm like, hey, it's okay. They're just wanting this, I really think it's just the ghost trying to get them to like them,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like there was this one spirit there, and we called him Monk, and he's very flirtatious. He was like there's a church that's on the campus over there at the college down there in Chattanooga, and so he would, I guess he like stayed on that, he passed away in the bell tower, but he when he stayed on the grounds and everything, like he flirts with all the girls, like all the ladies, and it's so funny. He's always like, we'll have like the obelisk on, or we'll have like different types of equipment. I'm not too crazy about the obelisk, honestly, but that's a whole nother conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but we'd have the obelisk on, and he kept saying kiss over the obelisk and wanting to kiss the girls and stuff, and sometimes we get to see him, so he would be up in the bell tower or something, and we'd like look up and you can actually see somebody up there.
Oh, wow.
Walking around it. Yeah, and so there's like different interactions that you get with different spirits, and I think my favorite ghost though on the tour was we had a Civil War cemetery over there, and we would go hang out with them, and I'd sit at this big pavilion. So I would just sit down and put all my stuff down because when you're carrying a backpack around with tons of equipment, you know how that is. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was just put the backpack down, and I get all my stuff set up, and we'll start singing to the ghosts. I'm like, hey, let's start singing, and sometimes you can hear them sing. Like we'll start singing like Amazing Grace or something, and you can actually hear them whistling to it or humming to it.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like behind you, there was this weird. I mean, there was a lot of activity there for a cemetery. I just thought that was really odd because it's like smack dab right in the middle of the city. It's cemeteries have activity, but this one was, I mean, had a lot of activity.
Yeah.
And it's been on. I mean, gosh, her tour has been on. I guess I think it was like TripAdvisor and like all this other. I mean, they do a really really good job with their tours and finding haunted locations and things like that. So
Yeah.
But
did you work for Amy Patula?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Amy.
I do. I've had her on the show. Yeah, I've had her. She was a guest talking about Haunted Chattanooga. I think the first season of my show here a few years ago.
Yes, I absolutely love her. She's probably one of the best bosses we've ever had. Honestly, yeah. She's amazing. Gosh, I really wish I was still in the area. I'd still be working for her, but she is great. I love that. I miss the tour. I think it's like when you build rapport with the spirits, it's sad when you have to leave, and it's sad when you have to go, like you're like, I'm probably not going to be back for a while. I have to say goodbye, It's just so sad. I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of get used to them, yeah.
Yeah, you do. And, like I have haunted objects, and so I've got all kinds of stuff, and I probably have about 13 ghosts in my house now. Yeah, I have to keep some of them blessed because some of them aren't too friendly. So I have to keep everything.
I saw on y'all's the Sunset Paranormal Facebook page, you have some pictures up there of some of the dolls, and you've got a haunted basket.
I do. Yeah, there's a story behind that. Actually, this is actually a really well-known story. You can Google her. Her name is Dr. Helena. I think it's Helena or Helene, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce her first name, but I think it's Nave or Nav or something. But she was German, and she would travel around. She went to like all kinds of different places, and she was a doctor. And at the time, being a female and being a doctor was kind of looked down upon,
Yeah.
So this was like way back in the day, and they found her in her apartment, and her throat was cut. And just the week before her throat was cut, she drew out a photo because she was a surgeon, right? So they drew out a photo of the incision on where the your artery and stuff is on your neck.
Yeah.
And same exact way she was cut. So the doctors all, when they were looking at everything and looking at the evidence and everything what happened, they think that another doctor would have killed her.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so they thought that it could have been her fiance because her fiance was a doctor, and they heard her arguing the night before with him, saying, "Well, you can continue to practice, and so can I." And then she had a wedding dress; they were planning on getting married. There was all this weird stuff happening. Well, he had one of his maids launder a dress that had blood in it, and when they found that out, they couldn't really prove anything because the dress kind of ended up back up into the apartment. So they wasn't sure if it was him taking it or somebody else. Back then, they didn't have a way to process evidence and things that we do now. And the maid was supposed to testify, but she never showed up to court. So they're not sure if it was. I mean, everything kind of stands on that. But when I was kind of investigating and doing, talking with her, it's a recording of a ghost box session where she said he loved me, talking about her fiance. So it might not have been him.
Yeah.
So there's another thing that a story where she was basically working with this guy who dug graves for a living, and that he would inherit everything after her death. So not sure if he killed her or not. So there's and nobody knows who did it. One thing I did get though from talking with her through the obelisk and ghost box and everything. I mean, I've tried every situation trying to talk with this woman. I've heard everything. But we did find out too through EVP and things that, well, I asked her, I said, can you tap the geophone? And then I got a recording back from the EVP that said yes. And then I asked her, I said, was it the janitor who let someone in your apartment? And they started going off the geophone. So it kind of makes you wonder. It's like, okay, what is going on here? And would we even be able to solve this anymore? Because would we even have the evidence? Part of me kind of wants to call the police station up there, like, do you guys have any other evidence at all, like whatsoever? Or can I look through your court records?
Right.
I think I was crazy, but yeah, there's books and things written about the whole situation. And not only is she attached to these baskets, but also her murderer is attached to it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and if I don't keep them blessed too, sometimes it always starts happening. My lights will start flickering. Always, that's like the first sign is the lights will start flickering, and then you can start hearing things like walking around, and then knocking sounds. You can hear a male laughing, things like that. So it's like I have to keep them blessed. So I've got a child, so it's like I can't have all that weird stuff going on.
Right. So I've never had any experience with a haunted object that I know of. So I'm kind of on the fence about haunted objects. I mean, I believe you, but I've just never had an experience. So why do you think they attach themselves to objects? I mean, do you have any theory or any idea?
I don't think they're attached to what people think that they are attached to them.
Okay.
I think personally, I think that there's a lot of residual energy.
Yeah.
Right. This is my personal opinion. I think there's probably most haunted objects that we have probably have a lot of residual energy. But when I think that they're attached, they're not like attached to them as in like they can't move on from that object. I think it's just something that they held dear in life and they just don't want to let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really think it is what it is. And I've noticed too with haunted objects, say if you take, you have a millimeter. Do you have a millimeter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if you take your millimeter, and then when you actually have a haunted object, near you, you can start talking with that to see if the millimeter interacts, because your EMS will start spiking. A lot of times it'll go up to almost 200,
Wow.
Yeah. And so you have to obviously you're looking for that high range, right? Anything over 5 is going to be high, but you're looking for like 60, 70,
Yeah, extremely
when
high.
It comes to stuff like that. Yeah. And so a lot of times when you have a real haunted object, a real one, and not just something people claim to be haunted, because you have so many people out there selling stuff. It's haunted, and there's nothing. There's no energy attached to it. There's nothing.
Especially dolls, for some reason. Dolls are the ones that always seem to be haunted.
Yeah, they really want, I do have a couple of haunted dolls, but they're real haunted dolls. I've gotten them from real sources, and I've seen the investigations, and I require proof before I get them.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And a lot of my stuff that I get things from auction. It just depends. I have to have proof before I will purchase anything, because obviously I don't want to get screwed over on my money,
Right,
but,
right.
there's been times that investigations, people have given me things. So it just depends on, what there is. Like this last time I went to, I find stuff at Goodwill too sometimes, depending on what the situation is. But I went to this antique store, and we had these 2 shadow boxes that we got. And I asked our medium, I was like, do you feel anything from this? And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, tons of death. And then when I was using the ghost box session, and I actually got EVPs, I didn't get anything on the ghost box, but I got on EVPs that said, is there a female or anything attached? I heard this little old lady say yes. And then right behind it was a man. And this is before I brought it into, onto the property or anything. I was just sitting. So obviously it wasn't interaction from other spirits. So you got to be careful about that too, But I was sitting outside with them, and I was like, after I heard yes or whatever, I heard a man that says, I'm here. And the thing is too, is like, you'll get some things that are super active and some things that aren't. Now these particular ones, I'm going to have to keep them blessed, because I was like, there's got to be a bad spirit attachment to this. Like I started struggling with like really bad depression and things. Because, having that much energy in your home around you and being around haunted things can really take a toll on you after a while.
Yeah, it just kind of drain you.
Yeah, and you have to kind of keep your wits about you with that kind of stuff, because anything dealing with anything spiritual, I don't care what it is, haunted, not haunted, spiritual things can either lift you up or bring you down. So you have to, really kind of try to have a balance between stuff. It's like, getting out of the house and, exercising, taking a walk sometimes, or just not. Sometimes you have to I've had to take a step back and go hunting before. Like, what, I really need to have my sanity,
Yeah, yeah.
So sometimes you have to. And I think that, when people are getting into this type of stuff, especially with haunted objects too, I would say just be really careful. Well, if you plan on buying haunted objects, make sure that it's really haunted. It's not something that somebody's going to screw you over with. And then also too, is just make sure you keep them blessed if you don't want to have too much activity, and also see what type of activity. You don't want to have a haunted object, with murderers and things attached to them, like I had, and not know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You don't want that for your first. You don't want that for your first haunted object. You want to have something that is kind of, maybe you'll hear something every once in a while, then kind of not hear it again for like 2 or 3 months. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, you want like little old granny ghost that's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, but the object that I got when I got it, the people who did the investigations and everything, they kept seeing shadow figures around the camera, and there was laughing. There was all kinds of weird stuff happening, and they were getting a lot of activity. Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to bid on it at all. I was like, I'll take it. And nobody else will bid on it. I'm taking it. Got it for $150. So, but I think that it's really having, and to be honest with you, I've never had any issues really, except I've had, obviously, we've seen some shadow figures and there's lights flickering and stuff, but nothing like bad has happened. I think the worst haunted object I have was those shadow boxes, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to be keeping those blessed from now on.
Yeah, I bought this not so long ago at Goodwill for like $3. I found this creepy music box, and I put a video up online, but it's made out of an old cigar box, and you pull the drawer out and the music starts playing. It has a little drawer, and then it has a clown that dances with the music, and it's really, really creepy. But I was thinking, for $3, I guess I'm an investigator. I guess I could deal with it if it brings anything to my house. But so far,
Right.
I mean, I have a resident spirit anyway, and so it hasn't really upped any activity that I've noticed. It sits on my shelf behind me right now as we're recording. It's right back there, but it just plays like a creepy music box tone and the creepy dancing clown, you know.
Yeah, it gives me that weird vibe.
Yeah, and I was like, I want it because it's $3 and it's weird, you know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, nothing. I haven't seen anything. But I'm always looking for creepy stuff, like you're saying at Goodwill. Sometimes you find stuff. I'm always looking for creepy stuff at Goodwill.
Oddity shops, man. I'm telling you. And it's funny because I have a lot of I have death photos and things. Like there's just one particular death photo that I have it was actually a Civil War soldier. He's in the Civil War. He was in the Union basically, and I think it was 32nd Division of New York, and he's a general. And I mean, he survived, did the whole war, did everything, and him and his wife are both attached to this photo because it's a death photo of their infant child. There's a lock of hair in that, and obviously it's holding that DNA, that hair is. And so there's a lot of energy to that, right? And so you have both the male and the father and the mother basically, attached to that photo, not wanting to give it up,
Yeah.
It can cause, there's some weird stuff. I've had some weird experiences with that photo, but, so it just depends on if it's really haunted. There's so many things that you think could be haunted that might not be, and that's another thing too. I always tell people, don't investigate places that you think are haunted just because they look spooky or scary.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're going to be haunted. Just go in there and investigate something that is known to be haunted or have that people have always said, I think it's haunted. I think it's haunted. They have that witness testimony. That's what you're looking for.
Right.
Because really, that's really the thing too. Is that's really why we're investigating. We're there to help witnesses, not to, just say, this place looks scary, so it might be haunted. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. And not trespassing. Don't trespass, people. Don't do that.
Yeah.
They you go to jail for that. Don't do that.
I always say that to people too, because that's how I got my start, was actually trespassing. And so I'm always like, statute of limitations run out. It was when I was a teenager. And, we didn't go in there and break anything, spray paint anything. We didn't bother anything. We were just there to have experiences. But, yeah.
Right. But you have those people who do that, though. That's the problem.
Right. That are vandalizing and things, yeah.
Yeah, 95% of the time, if you get there and please come in there, they'll just tell you to leave.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Not unless there isn't a trespassing sign posted and stuff. But there are people who will go and they will go in there like, let's look for ghosts. But they go in there and then they wreck the place. They spray paint the walls and they steal stuff, and it's like, that's no way to treat a location anywhere.
Yeah, and unfortunately there are locations that have stopped doing investigations because of people like that are disrespectful and things. And unfortunately, like in anything that you do, you're going to have people that have bad intentions and don't necessarily belong,
Yeah, and that is true. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I'm really hoping that, the ghost hunting community, though, too. Most people, when they get into ghost hunting, though, they can be really respectful. They're doing it because of the history, too,
Yeah.
So honestly, if we didn't have the history behind it, we wouldn't really have ghosts, We wouldn't have that to know what's going on. So it wouldn't be really much to investigate.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Alice, so much for coming on the show. Do y'all have any investigations coming up or anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Not really. I think what I'm doing right now is, I'm writing a book. I am, it's basically a pocket guide, kind of like, hey, this is how we investigate. This is the type of stuff. This is all the science behind it. And, we're going to be using it with our, we're going to be teaching classes soon.
Yeah.
Just to kind of it's basically for the amateur paranormal investigator who kind of wants to get in there, learn a little bit of the ropes. Obviously, I'm not going to go too far into parapsychology. I'll leave all that for the scientists. But, we're really wanting to kind of just want to teach people, the proper way to do things. But it's mainly for clients' sake. Also, people, new investigators are going in and saying everything's demonic, so we're trying to stop that.
Right. Yeah.
As well. Hopefully it'll help somewhere, even if it's just around here. It still would help Tennessee greatly when it comes to, helping the clients and really people to know, what's really going on and not some of the stuff that the television is portraying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we're not really focusing too much on investigations right at the moment because we're probably not going to be staying in the area. Only just because, my husband and I are looking for some property, probably going to start homesteading and things like that soon too. So, and we're kind of maybe leaning towards Gatlinburg, Sevierville area. So.
Yeah, well, keep me informed on when you start doing classes and when the guide comes out, because I'd love to push it here on the show, especially have a beginner's guide that, like you're saying, is kind of a reference for them. That would be awesome. I'd love to promote it here on the show and share it out at social media.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Well, I'll definitely keep you updated, and we'll, every time I think I'm done writing my book, there's always something else I need to cover. So.
Right. Yeah. I've been working on a book for 2 years now, so it's gonna get done this winter, and so it'll be out next year. But yeah, I've been talking about it, and it's half written, and I keep finding other stories to put in there. So yeah, I understand.
Well, let me know when your book gets written, because I would like to read it.
Yeah, it's gonna be called Small Town Haunts and Legends of Tennessee. So
that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to cover a lot of places that people never heard of and legends they never heard of, and things like that. Because like Chattanooga has ghost tours, so does Nashville. Memphis, all the big cities, even into Knoxville has ghost tours, and a lot of people know the Bijou Theater and a lot of these hauntings. So yeah, I wanted to go to the small towns and pick out the history and the hauntings that people have never heard of. And there's all these different legends that are regional or just to ones, only if you live in that town do you know about the hauntings. And there's a lot of interesting history to go with those hauntings. So that's what I'm trying to cover. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and the thing too is that some places you can grow up in a town and never know anything about hauntings.
Yeah.
You don't know. I mean, I grew up in Newport, Tennessee, where they have the memorial building that they had on the Ghost Brothers.
Yeah.
Never knew that place was haunted. I grew up there. Never knew it.
Yeah.
I knew that there was a plane crash and so many people died or whatever. But it was well, why would they haunt that area? Why wouldn't they go back home and haunt their families or haunt their home? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's my thought process. But it's okay, well, maybe there is something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, that's really neat.
And Sunset Paranormal, people can come check y'all out and follow y'all on all the social medias. And y'all also have a website, sunsetparanormal.com. People can go find out more info about y'all. And you were also in one of the magazines here recently, so they can check y'all's article out on y'all's Facebook too.
Yep.
All right, Alice, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it. I love the conversation.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me over here, and hopefully talk to you soon. And I'll definitely take a look at your book when it comes out. So.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Y'all stay safe out there. Have a good time. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to The Unseen Paranormal. Join me next Wednesday with a brand new guest. And please rate, review, share, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. This helps more people discover the show. You can connect with me over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or join us in the Unseen Paranormal Lounge group on Facebook. Until next time, remember, some of the scariest things are unseen. You have come to the end of the line.